ಸೊ ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ನಮಸ್ಕಾರ, ಸುಸ್ವಾಗತ. ನನ್ನ ಹೆಸರು ಶ್ರೀಕಾಂತ್ ನರಸಿಂಹನ್, ಬೆಂಗಳೂರು ನವನಿರ್ಮಾಣ ಪಕ್ಷದ ಪ್ರಧಾನ ಕಾರ್ಯದರ್ಶಿ. ನಾನು ದಿ ಜನರಲ್ ಸೆಕ್ರೆಟರಿ ಆಫ್ BNP, ಬೆಂಗಳೂರು ನವನಿರ್ಮಾಣ ಪಾರ್ಟಿ. BNP ಬಿಲೀಫ್ ನ 2ನೇ ಅಧಿವೇಶನಕ್ಕೆ ಸುಸ್ವಾಗತ. ವೆಲ್ಕಮ್ ಟು ದಿ ಸೆಕೆಂಡ್ ಸೆಷನ್ ಆಫ್ BNP ಬಿಲೀಫ್ ನಾಲೆಡ್ಜ್ ಸೀರೀಸ್. ಬಿಲೀಫ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ BNP ಎನೇಬ್ಲಿಂಗ್ ಲರ್ನಿಂಗ್ ಇನ್ ಎವ್ರಿ ಫಂಕ್ಷನ್ ಆಫ್ BBMP. ಈ ಅಧಿವೇಶನಗಳ ಮೂಲಕ BBMPಯ ವಿವಿಧ ಅಂಶಗಳ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಬೆಂಗಳೂರು ನಾಗರಿಕರಿಗೆ ಜಾಗೃತಿ ಮಾಡಿಸಲು ನಾವು ಬಯಸುತ್ತೀವಿ. We want to spread awareness among Bengaluru citizens about the various aspects of the functioning of BBMP. As we keep saying, good governance starts with informed citizens. Nenne, that is yesterday, Shri Naresh Narasimhan ಅವರು ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಬಂದು ಕೆಲವು ನಕ್ಷೆಗಳ ಮೂಲಕ ಬೆಂಗಳೂರು ಹೇಗೆ ಬೆಳೆದಿದೆ ಎಂಬುದರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಮಾತಾಡಿದ್ರು. ತುಂಬಾ ರೋಮಾಂಚನಕಾರಿಯಾಗಿ ಇತ್ತು. He used maps to show how Bengaluru has developed over the years. He also talked about how Church Street has been made into a street which needs no more digging. Can you believe a road in Bengaluru that actually needs no more digging? It's the stuff of our dreams. He actually talked about how it was done. He also talked about how the Rajakalve, for a few kilometers stretch from KR Market to Bellandur, is being converted into a waterway, for which a budget has also been sanctioned by the state government. So it was a very interesting session. ಭವಿಷ್ಯದಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು ಬೆಂಗಳೂರಿನ ಹೇಗೆ ನೋಡಬಹುದು ಎಂಬುದರ ಕುರಿತು ನಮಗೆ ಕೆಲವು ವಿಚಾರಗಳು ಸಿಗಿತ್ತು. So it was a very good session from that perspective. ಇವತ್ತು ನಮ್ಮ ಜೊತೆ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ ಶ್ರೀ ವಿ ರವಿಚಂದ್ರ ಅವರು. Mr. Ravichander dons many hats. He's the chairman of Feedback Consulting, which is a leading infrastructure consulting firm. But very importantly, ನಾವು ಬೆಂಗಳೂರಿನ ದೃಷ್ಟಿಕೋನದಿಂದ ನೋಡಿದ್ರೆ ಅವರು ಬೆಂಗಳೂರು ಎಜೆಂಡಾ ಟಾಸ್ಕ್ ಫೋರ್ಸ್ BATF ದ ಸದಸ್ಯರಾಗಿ ಇದ್ರು. This was a task force that was constituted many years back, which actually talked about how we need to envision Bengaluru. Even more importantly, he was part of a 3-member committee constituted by the state government, the government of Karnataka, called the BR Patil Committee, where he recommended how BBMP and Bengaluru needs to be restructured for better governance and administration. Welcome, Mr. Ravichander. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Srikanth.
Yeah. So before we start, let me explain how we are structuring this session. This is a webinar for 1.5 hours. We have just started at 6 p.m. So it's from 6 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. For the first 45 minutes, I will be engaging with Mr. Ravichander on a few questions about the BBMP restructuring report that he and his fellow committee members presented to the government, his views on the BBMP Act and specific aspects of the BBMP Act, which was recently passed by the Karnataka Legislative Assembly, and what are some key aspects through which we can make BBMP work better. And after that 45 minutes, we'll open the session for Q&A from the audience. ನಿಮಗೆ ಏನಾದರೂ ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆಗಳು ಕೇಳಬೇಕು ಅಂದ್ರೆ, ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆಗಳು ಇದ್ರೆ ನೀವು ಅದನ್ನ Q&A ವಿಂಡೋನಲ್ಲಿ ಇಲ್ಲ ಚಾಟ್ ವಿಂಡೋನಲ್ಲಿ ಕೇಳಬಹುದು. Or you can also raise your hand, after which I'll allow you to ask your question and Mr. Ravichander will answer that question. So on that note, we'll get into the session. Thanks once again to all of you who've joined this session. I'm already seeing that we have about 65 people who have already joined, and hopefully the number will keep increasing as we keep moving forward. So we'll get into the session now. So Mr. Ravichander, a few questions from my side. We'll go one by one. ನೀವು BS Patil Restructuring Committee ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಭಾಗವಾಗಿದ್ದೀರಿ. ಅದು ಮೂಲಕ ನೀವು BBMPಗೆ ಒಂದು restructuring proposal ಶಿಫಾರಸು ಮಾಡಿದ್ರಿ. Can you take us through the key recommendations of your proposal and why you think that is important for BBMP and Bengaluru? Over to you, Mr. Ravichander.
Thanks, Srikanth. Call me Ravi. And to all on the call, thank you for joining in on a Sunday evening. Nange Kannada artha agate, matadadu solpa kashta. So I will actually, take the liberty of answering in English. But Srikanth, keep asking me the questions in Kannada to the extent possible, and I'm happy to respond.
Sure.
So very briefly, the BBMP restructuring, it actually started as a kind of a, Vibhajane Madbeku, 3 corporations. That's how actually the genesis was. And we said that what we need to do is to restructure not only the BBMP, but also reimagine how Bangalore can be governed, which is a larger idea than just BBMP. So that was really the genesis. But because the objectives related to BBMP, the committee got called as the BBMP restructuring. But if you really see the fine print of what we were asked to do, we were asked to look at how to govern and administer Bangalore, even though the title was really BBMP restructuring. So that is really what we ended up doing in that whole report. To just briefly summarize the 3 or 4 main takeaways of the report. I mean, we can analyze about how dysfunctional it is, the multiple agencies and various aspects that actually we see on a day-to-day basis, which lead to our woes. Our solution set consisted of the following key points based on some key principles. One is, we said we need to go in for deep decentralization. So there is something called, I mean, and this may be dry language, but there is something called the principle of subsidiarity, which essentially says that you do an activity at the lowest level at which you can do the activity. And if you cannot do the activity at that lowest level, then do it at the next higher level, then the next higher level, and keep taking it higher and higher, depending on the need for it to be at the higher level. And where you can decentralize, you decentralize to the extent possible. So a combination of what I would call as deep decentralization and appropriate centralization or integration. That's really how we saw the way to go about it. Just to make this point come alive, something like garbage, the deeper and the lower you take it to the street level and the neighborhood level, it is easier to fix the garbage problem with segregation at source and handling the segregated waste to the extent possible in the local neighborhoods or the local zones, rather than taking it to a village 40 kilometers away and dumping it as a landfill in a village of 5,000. It is morally wrong, and it is the wrong way to deal with garbage. So garbage is an example where the more you decentralize, the better it will work, and the inerts could potentially go to a centralized landfill, which can be centralized, but the bulk of it can happen in a decentralized way. By the same token, if you take something like transport worldwide is more of a regional activity, not even a citywide activity. It tends to go into the neighboring districts, the neighboring region. So transport, invariably, you need to be able to plan more at the apex level, because you need to plan citywide metro, the citywide bus system, or even the regional bus system, the regional railway system. And there it is not feasible to say, I will think of transport at the lowest level of a street or a ward. So this is just to give you the example of the principle of subsidiarity and what we mean by decentralize where it's required and centralize where it's appropriate. Related to that, we actually did something called an activity mapping, where we mapped about 650 functions in the city, from getting a birth death certificate to paying property tax to getting a road cutting permission to getting water connection to what have you. And we have actually listed for each of those activities at what level should it be done, who should be the person responsible, who will fund the activity, who will execute the activity, and who will audit. So that has been mapped in our report to that level of granularity. It's another matter that it is gathering dust, and frankly, it's more academic. Nobody seems to be interested at this point of time, though it may see the light of day years hence. But that was one of the key findings in terms of let's do this decentralization and the appropriate centralization. The second thing of the committee really was that the biggest bugbear we have got is the coordination across agencies. And therefore, vis-a-vis the existing structure that we are very conversant with, which is a BBMP with zones and wards, and now, of course, with the latest act, the Area Sabha, which we are conversant about, our recommendation really was an apex body at the Greater Bangalore level, which integrates not only the activities of BBMP, but has a space for BMTC, BMRCL, BWSSB, BESCOM, and all the multiplicity of agencies, the police and the rest that exist at the citywide level. So we had a certain way on how to knock these various heads together to get the desired outcome. So another important element of the BBMP restructuring report was to say that unless we find a way to coordinate activities of the multiple agencies, any individual reform, whether it be to BBMP or to BESCOM or to BMRCL by themselves, will not be enough unless you can get them to work together. Because if you take any activity in the city, millions of millions, of course, is an exaggeration, but multiple agencies are involved. So if you, let's say, take something on transportation, there is BBMP, there is BDA, there is RTO, there is the traffic police, there is BWSSB and BESCOM that dig the optical fiber companies. So across the board, if you see anything you touch, you want basically, let's say, pothole-free roads and the ability to be able to navigate our streets. 7, 8 agencies are involved. How do you get an outcome that you want? Second, you move around in your life. Anecdotally, BBMP accounts for less than half our life in the city on a day-to-day basis. A lot of it has to do with electricity. It has to do with what you call water supply and sewerage. It has to do with metro rail transportation, which is not under the, and BMTC, which is not under the remit of the BBMP. Or for that matter, even when it comes to areas of education and healthcare, while BBMP may cater to a subset of it, it is not everything. Therefore, you need to find a way. So if I have to really say what were the two big things that the report said, we need to have a way by which we decentralize where required, integrate where required. And secondly, we need a governing structure. We identified our biggest problem is the absence of coordination across agencies. Each one is a lord unto themselves, a law unto themselves. They just don't care that the others exist. And therefore, citizens don't get the outcome that is required. So this, Srikanth, is all I'd like to highlight from the report. Of course, the report overall spoke to over 1,000 people. In writing, totally, there are some 3,000 pages of written material. But at the end of the day, if I have to really summarize and say, if there's one thing you allow me to do from the report, the first would really be the decentralization to a greater extent so that there's more citizen participation. And simultaneous with that would be this layer which coordinates across the multiple agencies. Srikanth?
Sure. Thank you so much for doing that quick summary. And for the benefit of the audience, Mr. Ravichandra calls himself the patron saint of lost causes. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಅವರು ಮಾಡಿದ ಯಾವುದೇ ಪ್ರಪೋಸಲ್ಗಳನ್ನು ಸರ್ಕಾರ ಒಪ್ಕೊಂಡಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ಅವರೇ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ. ಐ ಆಕ್ಚುಲಿ ಡಿಸ್ಅಗ್ರಿ ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ವಿ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಸೀನ್ ದ BBMP ಆಕ್ಟ್. ಅದನ್ನ ನೋಡಿದ್ರೆ ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ಕೆಲವು ಒಳ್ಳೆ ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ಸ್ಗಳು ಇದೆ. A few good points that have been incorporated in the BBMP Act. So you did talk about one of that in terms of the zonal committees. With regard to that coordination between agencies, I have a very specific question right at the end. We'll come back to it later. But can you quickly take us through any of the recommendations that you have made? Are they finding a place in the BBMP Act? If so, what are those and what are some of those good points? That would be a good starting point for the next step of our discussion.
Since I don't believe anybody has read our report, it will be too much for me to assume that even the zonal committee strengthening in the new BBMP Act was based on our report. So I'm humble enough to say that I don't think it was necessarily the source. But let me address the issue in terms of what's really good about the new BBMP Act, which is really the... So clearly, the decentralization measures spoken about, which is the strengthening of the zonal commissioner's office, the zonal committees that they spoke about. They make ward committee into a municipal authority, which is good. They speak about area sabha, which I feel sorry for the area sabha rep, because the entire responsibility is put on that person's head, but that person will have a major identity crisis because they don't know how they've got appointed, what are they think. They don't even have a defined space in the ward committee, but they are told that you have to hold regular meetings in this manner, etc. So that's the area sabha. So what is good is at least making these people municipal authorities in terms of the zonal committees and the ward committee and area sabha, etc. is a good measure. What is not good is the MLA consultative committee. Now, technically speaking, I mean, we are a state. There are state governments where MLAs are part of the corporation, and there are state governments where the MLAs are not part of the state of the corporation. We unfortunately are one where the MLAs are part of it. It is unfortunate that the MLAs are there in the BBMP itself. Even if you see the latest budget that was announced 10 days ago, they said that though the number of corporators are going to be 247, they said we are allotting 10 crores to build a building for 306 elected reps, because it has the MLAs, the MLCs, the MPs, and all the rest as part of the council. They don't belong there. And honestly speaking, when there is a struggle, the budget says that we will focus on the zonal committee, zonal commissioner. But in reality, given the power equation on the ground, at the same time, if the MLA consultative committee calls you for a meeting as a BBMP official and the zonal committee calls you, very good chances that you'll attend the MLA committee meeting and tell the zonal people to reschedule the meeting or say I'm called. That's how it works in reality. So it was unnecessary to give MLAs that power, and it is unnecessary for MLAs to be in the BBMP itself. And therefore, if the BBMP is truly to become a third tier of city government, the earlier we fix this issue of what is the role of the MLA, which should be zero, the better. So that's the negative part of this particular new BBMP Act. But the fact that there is a strengthening of the zonal is good. The fact that in the latest budget, they've given 2,000 crores out of 10,000 crores for zonal will go through the zones. But they say over time, we hope to go to 50% through zones is good. But I would have liked to have seen more language where you actually strengthen the ward committee instead of saying they are advisory in nature. Shrikant?
Yeah, we'll come to it. Actually, you already touched upon a few points that I wanted to delve in detail. For the benefit of all of you, there was something called as a Karnataka Municipal Corporations Act. In fact, the Karnataka Municipal Corporations Act still exists, just that it's now applicable only for the regions in Karnataka which are outside Bengaluru, because Bengaluru has got its own act now for municipal governance, which is the BBMP Act. It was passed in the Karnataka State Legislative Assembly a few weeks back. ಆದರೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಪ್ರಕಾರ ಅದೇ BNP ಪ್ರಕಾರ ಈ ಕಾಯ್ದೆ ನಮ್ಮ ನಗರದ ಅಗತ್ಯಗಳನ್ನು ಪೂರೈಸುವುದಿಲ್ಲ. The act comes nowhere close to fulfilling the needs of the city. And I think you already touched upon a few of those points. I would want to take each of those points in some level of detail. You already talked about the ward committees being advisory in nature, that being a challenge, the MLA's role, etc. We'll come to it. But I think there is one very fundamental point that I wanted to bring to everybody's notice. And I want your views also on that, Ravi. ನಾವು ನೋಡಿದ್ರೆ ಇವರು ಆಯುಕ್ತರು, BBMP ಆಯುಕ್ತರು, ದಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಅ BBMP ಕಮಿಷನರ್ ಮತ್ತೆ ಝೋನಲ್ ಕಮಿಷನರ್ಸ್, ಅವರದ ಸಂಬಳ, ಅವರದ ನೇಮಕಾತಿ, ಇದು ಎಲ್ಲ ನಮ್ಮ ರಾಜ್ಯ ಸರ್ಕಾರ ಅವರು ನಿರ್ಧರಿಸುತ್ತಾರೆ. ದಟ್ ಇಸ್ ದಿ ಅಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ಮೆಂಟ್, ದ ಸ್ಯಾಲರಿ, ದ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸ್ಫರ್ ಆಫ್ BBMP commissioner as well as the zonal commissioners is decided by the state government. And as far as we are concerned, it's absolutely the most ridiculous thing to do. So what is happening now is a person who is responsible for executing works in BBMP is reporting to a state government which has nothing to do with the municipal governance of the city. And on top of that, we have a mayor. Our view is that the appointment, the salary, and the transfer, all the fundamental aspects of the BBMP commissioner, who's interestingly now renamed as chief commissioner, as well as the zonal commissioners, should be decided by the BBMP council and the mayor. The commissioners should be reporting directly into the mayor. Of course, the mayor can consult the state government, should take their inputs, etc. But we believe that this creates a lot of confusion. There is a lack of pegging responsibility and accountability with regard to the governance of the city. And we believe that this is one very fundamental aspect of our city's governance, which is taking us further backwards and not forward. Any views that you have on this, and anything that you would like to share with us on that?
This is something I've always maintained. You know, the city, Bangalore BBMP, we are at the mercy of the state government. So let us have no illusion at all. It is the state government that calls the shots. You mentioned about performance appraisal, salary, confidential reports, whatever, all that stuff actually being written by the state government officials. The answer is correct. It is unfortunate but it goes back to, and I think I might have mentioned it in an earlier session with you. We have a constitutional birth defect that goes back to the constitution. The center, the first tier was well defined as the central government. The second tier of state government was well defined, and concurrent lists and all those things were drawn. But unfortunately, when it came to the third tier, instead of acknowledging a third tier of local government, whether it be urban or rural, they use the word local bodies and put them in some Trishanku land and made them saying that the state government will take care of the needful. And the state government continues to take care of the needful more from their perspective than necessarily from the perspective of the third tier. So this is something that has been there for all time and continues to this date. And even when we have an election and when you all get onto the council, as things stand, even if you unanimously decide to do something, if the state government wants something else done, finally that will rule at the end of the day. That is how it is structured, and the power equation is unequal, and consequently it is in favor of the state government, and that's the reality.
Yeah. And we believe that it's something that needs to change. It's something that BNP is planning to take up very seriously over a period of time. Hopefully, once we have our corporators into the council, we would want to bring more and more awareness about this issue among the public and gradually start bringing about that change. These things don't change overnight, but it's something that we believe is at the core of all the misgovernance that's happening in the city, where the commissioner and the zonal commissioners are not accountable or not held accountable to one single authority or to one single person. And that creates a lot of confusion, conflicts, power equations, and so on. So that's something
politically to get there, Shrikant, is start working on the younger generation of all the political dynasty that exists across parties. So whether it is the Congress or the BJP or the JDS, the youngsters are not willing to wait for a long time to get their turn at taking a shot at power. So if they can convince their families that the way forward is to empower the third tier of city government in its true sense, and if each of them believes they can become the mayor of Bangalore, you may get faster progress, because finally the state government has to let go of its considerable powers, and they are loath to let go. So you will have to think politically that how do you unlock this away from the, price it away from the state, and give it in the hands of the citizens of the city in the truest sense of the term, fix the constitutional defect by having a truly empowered third tier, because the 74th Amendment is a gross failure. So don't even say 74th is the answer. It's a failure. So you need to get to that. And my belief is that the part of the answer lies in having the younger generation of the political dynasties, however much you may say dynasty is not what is required, feel they have a shot at city power. And the reality, and I've mentioned this in the past, but worth mentioning again, pre-independence, our towering leaders, so whether it be Rajaji, Subhash Chandra Bose, Patel, Rajendra Prasad, Nehru, they all were city, township, municipal council leaders before they went to national politics. We just need to discover that formula again.
Yeah, absolutely. We are definitely grooming our youngsters. We have a BNP Navayuva, which is a youth wing of BNP. So there we are definitely trying to groom a lot of the youngsters. And what gives me the greatest satisfaction is a lot of these youngsters are getting onto the ground, looking at civic issues, and already starting to, I would say, dirty their hands and feet in solving those civic issues by taking part in ward committee meetings and so on. So that's absolutely the way to go. But in terms of pushing for more powers to be vested with the mayor and the council, that's something that we will continue to fight. And I think your point is very interesting. If we can pull in people from the younger generation belonging to these bigger parties, it sort of builds pressure on the system. So it's a good idea that we will try and work on. Getting on to the other aspects which are not really good about this act, or which is taking the city backwards. Again, you already talked about it. In fact, you talked about the role of the MLA. For the benefit of everybody here, it's actually not just the MLA. For all of you who don't know, the mayor of the city is elected not just by the 198 corporators. The mayor is elected by the corporators, the MPs who have gotten elected from Bengaluru, the MLAs and MLCs also who belong to Bengaluru. Now, the question that we keep asking from BNP side is, if the MPs do not have a role in electing the CM, the chief minister of the state, why should MPs or MLAs have a role in electing the mayor of the city?
Good point.
And you already talked about it. This BBNP Act is actually worse than the KMCA Act, which was there earlier. They have created consultative committees, which we believe is a backdoor entry for the MLAs to start exerting their influence on ward level issues. In fact, interestingly, we are already seeing in the current scheme of things, some MLAs chairing ward committee meetings of all the wards of a particular assembly constituency, which again goes completely against the grain of decentralized governance, leaving it at the ward level and so on. So the consultative committees, the role of the MPs, MLAs and MLCs, and the MPs do not have a role in electing the CM of the state, we believe are really horrible inclusions which are there in the BBNP Act. So any thoughts from your side? Yes, zonal committees are good, like you referred earlier. Zonal commissioners and zonal committees at a zonal level for better coordination is a good addition. But this consultative committees, we just don't know where it's leading to. So if you can delve a little bit more into some detail on that front, that will be very useful.
So basically, even in the zonal committee, actually, I feel the composition of the zonal committee needs looking into. It's a little more bureaucratic in its, I mean, if you see the minimum numbers specified there and the nature of the people specified there, they could have made it more broad-based. Interestingly, the zonal committee has no space for the MLA, who is a part of the main council, because they said we are giving you a separate MLA consultative committee, which of course is a drawback. The only thing I want to state there, and which is really, I'm going to one level lower, which is the ward. Now, you know, we had a I mean, we were very proud of that suggestion we made in terms of thing, but obviously, as I said, nobody's read our report. At the ward level, we actually suggested a proportional representation system. We suggested 20 members in the ward, 10 from people who fought the elections, and 10 from civil society, NGOs, slum representatives, and all those other groups, if I can call it that. And that I thought was really novel. So what it would mean, for example, let's say you as a BNP candidate, a situation where, let's say, I mean, let's hope you can come first in all the 247 wards, but say in a particular ward, you end up coming second with 25% vote share. And let's say the winner had 35% vote share. The way it works in our system, you would have a chance to nominate two people to the ward committee because you got, for every 10% vote share, you got a nomination for the ward committee. The winning candidate had a chance to nominate three people to the ward committee because they got 35% share. So essentially, we had a system by which every 10% vote share got you one seat nomination in the ward committee, which we thought was very unique and a potential proportionate representation system. Now, of course, we have a situation where there are a certain set of names, but where it is advisory at the end of the day as specified itself in the Act, I honestly don't see why any thinking individual would bother to spend time in the ward committee, because you want good people to spend time in the ward committee and provide. But at the end of the day, if they don't have a voice in what gets heard out there, then it's pointless. As far as that area Sabha rep is concerned, as I've already mentioned earlier, I don't even know why that anybody would bother to put up their hand about it, because it has a lot of responsibilities, but has no seat anywhere. So at the dining table of the ward committee, the area Sabha is not clearly spelled. I mean, they should have specifically said the area Sabha rep gets a seat at the ward committee and has this role, not mentioned in terms of this thing.
Yeah.
And the area Sabha rep is a nomination coming out from the zonal level, who are one level removed from what's happening at an area level, because the ward is closer to the area than the zone. So when you start looking at some of the finer details of the Act, it hasn't been thought through. It's, apart from not being discussed, it's just a grab bag set of things.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. And just for the benefit of educating our own team members here, we believe, that is at BNP, we believe that the core, the essence of municipal governance is actually ward committees and area sabhas. We believe that the people who are best poised to understand the issues of any area are people living in that area. The question that I keep asking is, if there is a pothole in front of my road, who is best poised to understand and solve that issue? Is it the Prime Minister of the country? Is it the Chief Minister of the state? Is it the mayor of the city? Is it the corporator? Or is it the people who live in that area? And the answer is very clear. It's people who are living in a particular area who know what their issues are. Whether it's a garbage problem or a pothole or a bad road problem or a footpath issue or an issue of bad stinking drains or lack of trees or streetlights not functioning. Ultimately, the essence of municipal governance is about empowering ward committees and area sabhas. Now, instead of empowering the ward committee and the area sabhas, as you rightly said, the recommendation of the ward committee as per the BBMP Act is deemed advisory in nature. And we just don't even understand what that means. If it's advisory in nature, why do you even constitute that? So, as far as we are concerned, if we have an act which properly and thoroughly empowers the ward committee of each ward and the area sabhas, and again, for the benefit of people who are not familiar with area sabhas are now mandated as per the BBMP Act as well. And the concept is simple. We break the ward down into a few different areas. It could be 10 areas, it could be 15 areas. Each area could have anywhere between 1,000 to 1,500 households, assuming you have an average of about 15,000 households in a ward. And what we try and do is, we should get a representation from every residential community of an area, bring them together as part of the area sabha, and they should be empowered to determine what the issues are in their area, bring it up in the ward committee, together decide which projects are to be taken up, and with the corporator playing a facilitating role in taking it up in the BBMP council and getting those projects approved. That's the ideal situation, that's the ideal world. We are nowhere close to it right now. And that's something that needs to change in the BBMP Act. But our view is that even if the Act doesn't provide for it, within BNP, Ravi, for your benefit also, we actually are forming, in fact, it's an idea that I was inspired primarily from a concept that you proposed. You talked about a shadow cabinet. So we are trying to create what are called as shadow corporator teams. So we're building up teams in each ward, and we are trying to get them organized in the form of a ward committee and area sabhas, through which then they can take the responsibility for issues in their own area, and then gradually get into the mode of taking the responsibility and taking the ownership for solving their issues. And ultimately, when we have our own corporators in the council, it becomes very easy to systematically transition into that framework, whether it is officially mandated as per the BBMP Act or not. If it's not possible officially, we will do it unofficially in a shadow manner. But the effort will be to continuously put pressure on the system and on the government to keep bringing about those changes in the BBMP Act, such that ultimately it's the citizens of the ward, citizens of an area who are truly empowered. So thank you for sharing those views. I think one thing that you said is that the ward committee is now officially deemed as a municipal authority. So at least that's a good positive step in the right direction.
And I just saw a comment about RWA. In fact, along with the shadow thing, another suggestion I've always been giving is consider doing ward yatras forget about when elections are announced. Yep. Because by just walking around in the ward with 10 people, 15 people, you will understand the inequality, the disparity. You will see areas that you didn't even know existed within a kilometer of your own house. So unless you take a walk around of that kind, because all said and done, the RWAs are still a little more privileged and elitist in the context of the city. And there are many people who are rightful claimants to the city who may not have a position in many of these places, but who are as much citizens of the city as us. Which is why when the ward committee gets composed, representatives from slum groups and underprivileged groups and the like are very, very important. And if you start doing ward yatras, I think people will get a little more sensitized that there are many claimants to the ward budget and there are many issues that need addressing.
So on that note, Ravi, I want to take you and the rest of the team through something very interesting that we did, which is my ward, Ward 57, CV Raman Nagar. A few months back, we put together a team of about 15 volunteers. We actually broke the ward down into 6 areas. We allocated it between ourselves. We actually did exactly that. We went around trying to see what are all the various amenities, which are all the different areas, what is there, what is not there. And based on that, we put together a full list of various things that need to be done, starting from a slum that we have, which has 400 houses, which doesn't have toilets, which doesn't have proper sanitation, which doesn't have proper garbage collection mechanism. In fact, this report we just presented to the nodal officer, Mr. Randeep of my ward. We are planning to prepare a budget out of this as well. So whether it's the slum development, whether it's the public toilets, where we have actually specified which toilets are in good condition, which toilets need refurbishment, where do we need community toilets, and specific issues around traffic management in a few areas in the ward, water management, where can we have recharge pits, how can we do the refurbishment of the STP in the lake, to the looking at the dysfunctional ROs that are there. We have some RO plants which are meant for public water consumption, but they're not functional. Things as simple as that, right? To a defunct dry waste collection center that is there and pointing it out and saying that we can even put up a transfer station right next to that. Then looking at the walkability, all the footpaths, the parks, open spaces. So we broke it down into various categories and we presented this. We made this presentation to the ward committee and the nodal officer along with the AE just as of last Saturday, rather yesterday. I didn't realize it was yesterday. So we have even put out the specific list of places with photos and all that. It was received very well by the nodal officer. And what we said is, this needs to be included in the budget in terms of rectifying these elements, in terms of building toilets, setting up proper houses for the people in the slums, putting those recharge pits and those whole bunch of things that we have talked about. So I totally take your point. Ward walk is something that we would like to encourage our teams to engage in, and with that, we actually get a good perspective of the real issues at the grassroots level, at the ground level, that is faced by people. And in fact, interestingly, when we did the ward committee meeting yesterday, where we were presenting this, we realized that there was one area where a few houses do not have access to a sewage connection. It was very revealing to us. We didn't even know that. And that's really where we felt that area sabhas actually need to play a more important role. Each of us living in our own areas, if we start bringing these issues up, we consolidate everything, we put it up for a budget, get it approved, and start executing it. Anyway, we're still a long way away. We'll see how it goes.
You'll be surprised when you go to the outlying areas. It's in major double digits where houses don't have underground drainage connection.
Yeah.
Sewage connection.
But interestingly, we know that, let's say, if you go to areas like Begur or Bellandur or some parts of northern parts, those 110 villages of my ward, which is bang in the middle of the city, where the entire ward has a sewage connection. But these people, this specific area, small area within the ward, about 600, 700 houses, they do not have access to a sewage connection. It was hugely surprising for us. We didn't even know that in our ward, which is in the center of the city, an area exists which doesn't have a sewage connection. It was amazing insights and amazing learnings that we've been having based on that. But anyway, as we've been discussing, it's high time that we start working towards empowering these ward committees and area sabhas. Yeah, it'll be our endeavor to keep pushing the government and keep pushing the BBMP to bring about those changes. Before I come to this coordination between agencies, there was one more point I wanted to bring about relating to the ward committee members also. Today, we believe that even if the ward committee members' roles is deemed to be advisory in nature, we believe if a ward committee is properly constituted, there is at least a watchdog that is available, which can keep a tab on what the corporator is doing and what the AE of the ward is doing. From that perspective, we believe if there is a procedure that is defined for the nomination of ward committee members and area sabha members, where the corporator, upon getting elected in every ward, the corporator should put out a public notice seeking nominations to the ward committee and the area sabhas, where the process is made transparent. And once the nominations are received, the corporator is well within his or her rights to nominate people to the ward committees. But if there is a mechanism that we put out in the BBMP Act, which states that they have to explain why they chose these 10 people in the ward committee and how many applications did they receive and what those applications were, we believe at least it puts pressure on the system, even if the role is, let's say, advisory or there is a limited role that the ward committee can play. Any thoughts that you would like to share, or do you have any views on that?
Must mention nobody has read. Just pick the ward committee provision there of 20 seats and bring it into the BBMP Act. So 10 will decide itself because you will have political representation across the spectrum at one level. And the remaining 10, we follow the system that you have said, where they set out as to why they selected the 10 people from the various groups and how many did they receive is the right way to go about it. So it needs a rewrite. But instead of leaving all the seats as nomination to the corporator, I would still say every 10% vote share, give a seat to a particular thing. It will keep everybody honest. Because at the end of the day, you get the political representation in the ward committee, which is necessary, not just well-meaning people.
Fair point. I think if you have to bring some accountability and transparency into the system, having representation across the political spectrum in a ward will automatically start doing that. So I totally agree with you on that. One thing is, my worry is a 20-member committee might become a little bit unwieldy, but I guess we can still do it with 15 people also, with, let's say, 7 people nominated and 8 people based on political representation.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. So the last question before we open it out for the audience, you did talk about this, and I think this is one big recommendation you said you made as part of the BS Patil Restructuring Committee report. And this is an issue that we keep seeing all the time, including in the recent WARD committee meeting that we attended yesterday. Coordination between agencies, BBMP, BWSSB, DESCOM, BDA, BMTC, traffic police, whatnot. So what is your view on how do we bring about this coordination? What was your recommendation? In this, if we can also probably talk about that Metropolitan Planning Committee, the MPC, which is mandated by the 74th Amendment. If you can take us through how this problem can be solved at a broad level, I think it'll give us some ideas as well. So, and we can take this question as the last question from my side, post which we can put it out to the audience.
I'll try to be brief. So post the BBMP Act, I mean, even in the run-up, the BBMP Act, when the draft was initially tabled, one had put together a 3-page note on how the BBMP Act can be improved to bring in the coordination aspect. Is a note that one gave the powers that be. But like the 3,000 pages of yore, even a 3-page note did not get any attention. So the patron saint of lost causes is well deserved, Srikanth. I have more not being listened to and failures than successes. Of course, as you said, there are some good successes, but more failures than successes. And in fact, I call my first most successful venture really being the self-assessment scheme of property tax. Anyway, that's another day. Coming back to this, what is the essence of the suggestion, the 3-page note that one gave? So when you go back to that thing, it is basically in terms of, what shall I say? I'm sorry, there's an incoming call, but I'll address that later. I suggested something called an MPC++. Now, first thing is, what is the Metropolitan Planning Committee? It is something set out as a planning committee in the 74th Amendment. And consequently, this is something that has a lot of weaknesses because it's only seen as a planning committee. The biggest weakness it has got, though it has a schedule of 18 items, it does not have transport as one of the functions. So it's almost saying that go ahead and plan a city without transportation. So transport is missing there. Common amenities like parks, the common the commons as they call it, is all missing. So there are many, many problems with the MPC. So what my idea of the MPC++ was, take the MPC as given because it's a constitutional requirement. So hug it. But nothing in the Constitution says you cannot go beyond this, which is why I call it the MPC++. So what did we recommend as the plus in the MPC? As the plus is the coordination. So we said call it the Metropolitan Planning Committee and add it as MPCC literally. So Metro Planning and Coordination Committee. So basically it becomes also a committee which looks into execution and coordination of the various people under it. So like our Apex suggestion, we said bring BMTC, BMRCL, BESCOM, BWSSB under this MPC++. They all report to this body. It can be chaired at the Chief Minister or the Bangalore Minister level because it has got state level bodies.
Or possibly at the Chief Secretary level as well. And I understand that there is a proposal right now in the works to have a Chief Secretary coordination committee.
This coordination beyond the stage will not go too far because you have to have the political thing also. So you would have the mayor, you will also have the Bangalore Minister because they are, at the end of the day, you have to give some work to the Bangalore Minister also. Na? You can't just say you're the Bangalore Minister with this red beacon and leave it at that. Of course, in this current case, it happens to be the Chief Minister who already has the red beacon. Yeah. The point really is you need to figure out a way by which the execution kind of thing and coordination also. So execution will lie with the individual agencies. So nobody is taking away the execution power of BWSSB or the execution power of BMRCL or BMTC. They remain with the independent agencies that are there. But the coordination agency, they are answerable to this MPC++ entity. And that MPC++ entity, every rupee of money going to those agencies, every rupee which goes from the state government or central government grants to those various bodies, goes through this MPC mechanism. So this apex body that you've got, you don't have money, nobody's interested in listening to you. Okay, so you have to have the money for people to listen to you. So the money should be routed to the agencies through this. It becomes then, the agencies know that I will get money for this purpose only if I listen to what the MPC is asking me to do. And which is the coordination, that you got to coordinate with each other. You got to do this, you got to take up this project and not that project. So this is the way out of this coordination. And these coordination committees at the bureaucratic going up to the chief secretary level is an old invention. It has existed since time immemorial. It has not served the job because the chief secretary cannot be calling this meeting every other.
Yeah.
Main third cross coordination problem, sixth main seventh cross coordination problem, and a million other coordination problems that arise on a day-to-day basis. You need an institutional mechanism. At the highest level, the agencies have to know that their future money and everything else depends on them listening to this institutional body. And it's a constitutional construction. The KMC Act already has this MPC chapter in the Karnataka Municipal Corporation, which is a cut and paste of the the cut and paste of the 74th Amendment. All it requires is 4 or 5 more paragraphs to be added, which is there in the 3-page note one gave them, but no interest. So we will keep saying we need coordination, we need coordination, we need coordination, but nobody is interested in it. The reality is we like to talk till kingdom come. Nobody is interested in doing it. This, Srikanth, is the problem, and we will go to our collective graves talking, not happening.
Yeah. Only one thing I would like to promise. Only one thing I'd like to promise you, Ravi.
My frustration has grown through the last answer.
I know. I can clearly sense that. Much as he calls himself the patron saint of lost causes, I believe that the work done by people like Ravichander, Katyayani Chamraj, I think they've all been doing yeoman service for Bengaluru over the last few decades now. And if that pressure had not been continuously built up over this period of time, what committees would still have not been reality? Of course, they came 25 years after they were constitutionally mandated. The BBMP Act has also come much, much later. But if even those efforts had not been put in by people like Ravichander and Katyayani and so many others who've been working on the ground, we wouldn't have seen, these things wouldn't seen the light of the day.
Lots of people. I mean, Naresh who spoke yesterday. We're all fellow travelers.
Absolutely.
Whole journey.
So absolutely. And that's the way I look at it. I think every effort that goes in, every suggestion, every recommendation, every proposal adds its weight. So thank you so much for being that warrior for Bengaluru over the last many years. On that note, I would like to now start opening the session for Q&A from the audience. We have a few questions already on the Q&A window. Probably we can go one by one.
You want me to take the question and answer it and move on?
Absolutely. Why don't we go one by one? What we'll do is we'll just do a mix of the people who have raised their hands as well. We'll just do a mix of both. One question will
coordinate. You coordinate and we will do it.
Why don't you take this first question? Can't we operate BBMP just like any other corporate company? If we do, only then we can start seeing positive results. I think
but that's a general.
Already answered.
So let's just go on from there.
Absolutely.
I mean, the corporate company and the public sectors are very, very different animals. So that's for another.
Yeah. But anyway, I think we have already covered that. If the BBMP Act itself is more empowering in nature, it'll automatically solve the problem, but they don't want to do it. So we'll keep fighting for that.
I think it's important, there's a thing from Nivedita Raju, who's also part of the CAG in Karnataka, who heads it. And she brings to our notice that there's a comprehensive report on the status of decentralization in urban Karnataka. And actually the CAG comes out with some amazing reports from time to time. This is on decentralization. They have studied the municipal waste system and various things. It's really worthwhile to go through their reports because they have auditors who are spending a lot of time in the weeds with the numbers and what's being done or not being done. And often the nuggets of what need to be done are lying in that particular space. So that's really what I would recommend everybody.
In fact, Nivedita, if you can post your number to the panelists, we'll be happy for one of us to give you a call and get access to whichever documents you are referring to, and we can share it within our groups as well. So that would be really useful.
Now, she also has a follow-up question, and then we can go to someone live. Are the political executive at the ULB aware of their role and the autonomy that they should get? So I would think not enough. So the roles and responsibilities of the political executive, whether it be mayor, deputy mayor, the various standing committee people, etc., I'm afraid that that is another area where we could raise the awareness of, and also to help them understand what are their rights and roles, and therefore they can actually be more effective is something that is required. I would go one step further. I've always been intrigued. Actually, most of civil society that actually fights for more powers for the third tier are actually for strengthening the corporators' hands. But funnily, what I've noticed over 2 decades of working in this space, the corporators don't see the civil society as their allies. And the corporators prefer this MLA kind of Ji Huzuri system.
Yeah.
Well, actually, people like us who are keeping on fighting more power is actually strengthening the corporators' hands, but they are looking towards the MLA and the ministerial system, while their allies are on the other side, which they're not looking, which itself is a sign of they're not figuring it out who their true allies in the system are.
But then my view also on that, Ravi, is that the party structure, whether it's the big parties, Congress, BJP, JDS, the party structure mandates that the corporator is subservient to the MLA and so on. So I don't think they're left with any choice. And that's really where we believe that a truly independent party like BNP, and if you have corporators from parties like us, I think it can make a huge difference to our city. But then we'll take it step by step, and then we'll see how things pan out. But I don't see the corporators bringing about any change at all, because they are subservient to the MLAs. The MLAs are the ones who give them the tickets and so on. I don't see that system changing soon. So it's up to us, people like us within BNP, and probably people who are having similar aligned thoughts, for us to bring about that change.
Shrikant, before you call anyone live, I have a request for those who have posted questions in chat. My request is if you can copy it and paste it in Q&A, it's much easier to deal with it, purely because the chat has also highs and other messages and general observations, and consequently questions have a tendency of getting lost in a rolling chat format. So for those who have posted questions in the chat, if you can bring it to the Q&A box, it's much easier to deal with it. Shrikant?
Sure. So we have a few hands which have gone up as well. So Satish Kumar is the first hand I'm seeing. Satish, you can unmute yourself and you can ask your question. And my only request to people who are asking questions, please keep it very brief and very pointed, a very specific question. We have only little over 30 minutes to go. Quite a few hands and quite a few questions to be answered. Satish, over to you.
Shrikant, I've already posted my question in the Q&A, so you can take it from there.
Okay.
So Satish, we will take it when we come to the Q&A. We'll take it there in the order.
Okay. Then we have Amarnath, who has posed a question. Amarnath, you can unmute yourself. You can ask your question.
Okay, I think maybe he's also posted the question.
Probably then, why don't we take those questions?
I'll keep taking the Q&A. I'll keep going down the list. It's much easier. That way I won't miss anybody.
Yeah.
And if I can find, for example,
I'll ask. In fact, I'll ask.
Ramakant had mentioned that highest level of democracy is the ward committee. Tips on how to strengthen ward committee. My answer lies is you have to fight to remove it from being advisory in nature. That is the good fight. So you have to remove the advisorial nature of the ward committee. That's first thing. Second is spend some time on strengthening the composition of the ward committee. We discussed 20, 15, partly here, there. Spend some time doing, because if you see, when you're building a house, you need to spend time in the foundation. If the foundation is weak, anything you build on the superstructure of that foundation is bound to fail. I would say the advisorial needs to go. It's an important part of the foundation. the structure of the thing, who gets to nominate, how are they nominated, the justification for the nomination. I would push for proportional representation. You build the edifice right, you will find that the ward committee will automatically gain wings. There's already a proposal that which even the commissioner has said that 1% of the property tax will go for the ward. There are other ways to strengthen it. So once you have more, and then we need to go bottom-up budgeting, which is a good practice. That's the way to go forward in that respect.
So if I were to summarize, then the 3 points that are takeaways for us from a ward committee empowerment perspective is: number one, remove the advisorial nature, right, and make it truly empowered. Number one. Number two, the composition of the committee to be a combination of political representation and
phone.
Sorry, yeah. So composition of the ward committee, whether it's 15 people or 20 people, make it a combination of political representation and nominations, so that there is a reasonable sense of checks and balances that we can build into that system. And the third thing that we talked about is bringing transparency into the nomination process. So I think these three things, if we are able to bring it into the ward committee constitution process, hopefully over a period of time, the system will, as you rightly said, the edifice, the foundation becomes very strong. Ravi, you're on mute, by the way.
Then I'm aware. Sorry, I was just handing over my phone because
Sure,
of the call that came in here.
So I think those three takeaways from a ward committee are very useful. So we'll take that up.
So the next one is in the nature of a private inquiry on the flyover at Saraki. I think we'll defer that for now. Let's just stay with the systemic issues.
Yeah. By the way, just to answer that question,
announcement of a thing and it seeing the light of day is mega years. So don't go by an announcement of a press flyover and then say, because if you see the Koramangala flyover that's happening, between its execution and its completion itself, it is years in the making. I was involved in Tendersure. We started the exercise in 2007. And the first Tendersure road came on the ground in 2017. So that took 10 years. So just a quick point about between announcements and the reality of seeing it.
And to just further elaborate on that, we do have a separate session on budgeting, the BBMP finances and the budgeting process. So any of you have any questions on that, like what Vijayan has asked, we can take it up in that session.
Gautam says that about the constitutional defect of third tier governance. The third tier governance now is not it's not really a PIL will not fix it, because the constitution doesn't provide for a third tier of city or rural government. So consequently, it has to be fought in the political space. And that is the way to get a truly empowered third tier of city government. The time to get it in a court, because the constitution doesn't provide for it. And the 74th, which tried to, 73rd was better than the 74th. The 74th, which was supposed to fix the constitutional anomaly, did a terrible job at it. So we lost the chance by a very, very badly drafted 74th amendment when we had the chance to make the constitutional amendment. So at best, people go and say an MPC is to be formed. It is not formed. And consequently, that's the basis on which people go to court.
Yeah.
Another point has been discussed on coordination, so I'm just letting that go.
Sorry, should we go to a person? Yeah, should we go to one person who can ask a question live?
Yes, please.
Yeah. We have Achyuta Rao. Achyuta Rao, you can unmute yourself and you can pose your question.
Yeah. Sir, you have given a very good suggestion and propositions, but when we come on the ground level, for the suppose one road is dug up, they start the blame game. BWC has not done. This fellow will tar contractor will come tar again the next day. Airtel cable or whatever the service they dig up. Why they are not having in a systematic way, so that when all these agencies complete their work, then this tarring may take place. That is my suggestion.
Mr. Achyuta Rao, there are many reasons for it. Some I can give you as conjecture or opinion. The part of the problem really is, part of it is intentional. This digging and redigging is intentional, because just think of it from my perspective. I am an authority responsible for doing a particular road. I actually have a deal with my counterpart, and I'm stating it as my own view on this. My counterpart in the other agency, I'll say, look, wait for the road to finish, and then you start your work. Now, when the second person digs, the quality of my work, I now have enough people on whom to put the blame on. You cannot independently assess whether I did my road properly or not, because the same road got dug by some other agency, and consequently there is deniability on what I did or did not do. This is the reality in the place. The second thing really is, and this is something I've been mentioning, we need to learn from what they do, for example, in London. So London, the system that they follow is that each agency is given a certain, they estimate saying, okay, you as the water board equivalent want to dig here. My estimate is it'll take 3 days to do your work and bring it back. The citizens need to get the road back in the same condition. They'll add 1 more day and give you 4 days. But from the 5th day, they start fining the agency, and the fine doubles every day. So if the work is not done by the water agency on the 4th day, on the 5th day, they put £1,000 fine. On the 6th day, it's 2,000. On the 7th day, it is £4,000. No discussion. You just pay an escalating, doubling fine if you have not brought the road back to its original condition within the agreed 2 days. Do we have the system and the climate to be able to do that? The answer is no. But there are out-of-box methods. You have to make the person... See, while we agree that the water board needs access to the roads to provide water for or do a repair, the citizens have a greater right to get the road back in time and not sit in that condition for the next 20 years. And in so many roads, even if you see in the smart city program, why do you see so many roads dug up and left? It's like a land grab. The moment as a contractor, I go and dig somewhere, I've established my right to that work out there. The rest of the work may take 2 years to finish, but by going and occupying that space, think of it as a kind of a land grab adventure by which I assert my right to do that contract, and in due course it gets done. That's the reality of the marketplace on the ground. We can wish, but by the same token, we must wish nobody kills anybody else. We must wish that everybody must be good. People are not all good. People commit murders. So what we are saying is part of that same mechanism. Therefore, you need a system which incentivizes good behavior and penalizes bad behavior. Unless we get to that framework, we'll only be wringing our hands. It should not be like this. It should not be like that. That's really my point.
I would like to add one more bit there. This is again my experience from yesterday's ward committee meeting itself. I personally believe that by citizens participating in ward committee meetings, today in many wards, officials from the different agencies are already part of it. For example, there is a road in our area in what's called as the Nagarapalya Vartur road, where they are planning to relay the road, but there is an L&T cabling work that is still pending, and one BWSSB line, in fact, that sewage connection that I was just talking of, that's still pending. So we were actually able to discuss all of that and said, either the road will not be laid till this gets sorted out, and we are putting pressure on BWSSB and the L&T Bescom folks to get that done. Or what we are saying is, if you agree that the road is going to be laid, then BWSSB and Bescom will not touch it for the next 1 or 2 years. And that way, at least there is better coordination happening. While yes, there's still a long way to go on that. By citizens participating in ward committee meetings and bringing these issues up, figuring out the coordination elements. And yes, I totally agree with Ravi on one point. In many cases, these are deliberately done to keep doing projects again and again. And that's something that we have to seriously fight against. The best platform are ward committee meetings where more and more citizens participating. Yesterday in the ward committee meeting of our ward, something like 30 people were there from different areas. All issues were taken up and these coordination issues were taken up. It was a brilliant meeting. I think that's probably the framework that we need to follow and start moving things forward.
And another out-of-box suggestion there, Shrikant, you randomly pick a household on the road, and unless they sign off, that bill doesn't get cleared to that contractor. That's just an out-of-box idea. Satish Kumar's point was, how do we ensure ward committees is not corporators, cronies, and all that stuff?
We already covered that.
We have discussed a lot through the thing.
Yeah.
And I think Shrikant, you also mentioned that the corporator needs to let us know how many people applied for it and what is the basis for selecting the people and the like. So we have done that at some distance, at some depth. Ramakant, would you like to ask your question?
Yeah.
Yeah, please.
Ramakant, you can unmute yourself and ask your question.
ಇದು ತುಂಬಾ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರಿ ನೀವೆಲ್ಲ ವಾರ್ಡ್ ಕಮಿಟಿ ಬಗ್ಗೆ. ನಂದು ಓನ್ ಮೇನ್ ಕನ್ಸರ್ನ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ವಾರ್ಡ್ ಕಮಿಟಿ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಮಾತಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ ನಾನೀಗ. ಸರ್, ಇಷ್ಟು ದಿವಸ ಏನಾಗ್ಬಿಟ್ಟಿದೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ವಾರ್ಡ್ ಕಮಿಟಿನಲ್ಲಿ none of the majority of educated people have not taken any participation and taken their position at all. Of course, from HSR 190 and 174, we started taking a very active part for the past about 10-15 ward committee members meetings. As you rightly told it, we have started participating ourselves to improvise the system. ನಮ್ಮ ಪ್ರೆಸೆನ್ಸ್ ಏನು, ನಾವು ಯಾವುದಕ್ಕೆ ರಿಪ್ರೆಸೆಂಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀವಿ. ಅವ್ರು ಕೂಡ ನಮಗೆ ಬಿಗಿನಿಂಗ್ ನಲ್ಲಿ ಸಪೋಸ್ ಟು ಗೋ ಔಟ್ ಅಂತ ಕೂಡ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರು. ನಾವೇನ್ ಹೇಳಿದೀವಿ, ಇಲ್ಲಪ್ಪ ನಾವು ಸಿಟಿಜನ್ಸ್ ಪ್ರಾಬ್ಲಮ್ ತಗೊಂಡ್ ಬಂದಿದೀವಿ, ಇಂಡಿವಿಜುವಲ್ ಆಗಿ ಬಂದಿದ್ದಿಲ್ಲ. ಹಿಂಗೆ ಎಲ್ಲ ಕನ್ವಿನ್ಸ್ ಮಾಡಿ 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 ಈಗ ವಾರ್ಡ್ ಕಮಿಟಿನಲ್ಲಿ ನಮ್ಮ ಪ್ರೆಸೆನ್ಸ್ ಎಂಬುದು ಫೀಲ್ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ. ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನೀವು ಹೇಳಿದ ಪ್ರಕಾರ ಸ್ಲೋಲಿ ವಿ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಟು ಡೆವಲಪ್ ದ ಸಿಸ್ಟಮ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಪೀಪಲ್ ಶುಡ್ ಅಂಡರ್ಸ್ಟ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ದಿಸ್ ಪರ್ಟಿಕ್ಯುಲರ್ ಮೆಂಬರ್ಸ್ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಕಮ್ ಟು ಡಿಸ್ಕಸ್ ಅಬೌಟ್ ದ ಸಿವಿಕ್ ಇಶ್ಯೂ ಅಂಡ್ ಗೆಟ್ ಇಟ್ ರಿಸಾಲ್ವ್ಡ್. ಇಷ್ಟು ದಿವಸ ನಾವು ಬಿಟ್ಟಿದ್ದೀವಿ, ಅದೆಲ್ಲ ಬೇರೆ ತರ ಆಗ್ಬಿಟ್ಟಿದೆ, ಬೇರೋಡಿ ಕೂತ್ಕೊಂಡ್ಬಿಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಅವರು. ಅದನ್ನು ಚೇಂಜ್ ಮಾಡಕ್ಕೆ ನಾವೇ ಎಜುಕೇಟೆಡ್ ಜನ ಟ್ರೈ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಈ ಸಿಸ್ಟಮ್ ಅನ್ನ ಚೇಂಜ್ ಮಾಡಬಹುದು ಅಂತ ನಂದು ಒಂದು ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೀರಿಯನ್ಸ್. ನಂಬರ್ 1. ನಂಬರ್ 2, ಮೈ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೆಕ್ಟೇಷನ್ ವಾಸ್ ಡಿಫರೆಂಟ್ ಬಿಕಾಸ್ now the nodal officer is in charge of conducting all ward committee meetings. My expectation was at least nodal officer would have changed the system of conducting the meeting, which could not take place in the initial stage. We are successful in that also. They started including our all demands in their minutes and other things. And I'm very happy to tell that from 174 and 190, we presented the budget in front of all the people. It is welcomed and appreciated, including from nodal officer and all ward committee members. Now they started talking to us. The group has taken a confidence among us that these people are doing something. This is a small experience about ward committee. The challenge that 190 and 174 we will change, and we will see that lot of improvement will take place also. This is my few words from Ramakant, 190 and 174. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Ramakant. It's heartening to hear the story and the involvement. Only thing I would like to add, slightly contrarian to what you said, I have not seen a correlation necessarily with being educated and being a good citizen in the city. So I would actually just say that we all need to be good citizens, and I wouldn't make education the only marker. There are a lot of people who are reasonably, quite illiterate and the like, but whose heart is in the right place and are wanting to do the right things in their own way. That's only contrarian point I'd like to bring to your point. Obviously, it should not be what somebody else referred to as the corporators' cronies.
Correct.
So do we take another live question, Srikanth?
There's a few more questions in the Q&A window. Why don't we take one there before we go back to the live?
Okay, so this is Deepak Mandal has set up various waste processing for management, etc. Are these waste processing plants functioning properly? The answer is no. Is there any role of political nexus in waste management? Totally, there's full political nexus. And that is why they call the garbage mafia. So the essential point, Deepak, on this whole thing is the 7-8 waste processing plants are not working. Part of the reason is they were badly designed in the first place. Second, they're getting mixed waste, which they're not equipped to handle. So that's the reason that it is not working. Some of them are not even salvageable. And we need audits of those waste plants in a very big way. The second part about the nexus, it cuts across political parties. And what we have are not garbage contractors. We have transport contractors who make money by the amount of waste they carry and the distance over which they carry that waste, at least on the bill. And as long as that is the structure of the waste management, we will be spending more and more money. The answer lies in decentralized waste, segregation of waste at source, decentralized waste handling. We can actually shrink our waste management bill by 500 crores if we did that, but there is nobody there interested in doing that. So we shall continue to plod in this space.
Yeah.
And Radha,
actually, why don't we go to Balaji Srinivasan?
Balaji Srinivasan.
Yeah, Balaji, you can unmute yourself and you can pose your question.
Sir, thanks to Mr. Narasimhan as well as Mr. Ravichandra, excellent debate. Like everybody pointed out, one gentleman pointed out, participation is not there with us. Even in our own apartment, when we try to raise any issues, when the corporator come for a donation, everybody good, we are giving. But when he complained or anything, out of 200 people, only 30 people are coming. That is our own problem. Second is, see, I walk almost every day 10 to 15 kilometers within Saraki and Jayanagar 5th block and everything. See, all are encroaching. If you see the main road from Sangam Circle up to the Raghavendra, all are the big people, Krishnaya Shetty, Angadi, all these people occupy the place. Don't you have the right to stop the property tax unless this removing and everything, or they have a higher hand or they have upper hand, we can't do anything? Is it the way? Even if you see the Saraki main road, they open everything. We don't have a place even to walk also.
Yeah. So, Mr. Srinivasan, as far as the second question, because the first is an observation, so because we have a lot of questions, I'm going a little quickly. The second one really is this whole issue of encroachment and people, even well-to-do retail outlets as well as encroaching footpaths and the like. Frankly, it boils down to rule of law, and our adherence to rule of law is low as a populace. And people are able to get away with using contacts or money or whatever. So the rule of law, whether it comes to jumping signals or whether it's about encroachment, is something that needs to be fixed, and it's a much larger issue. I'll take this question from Radha. She talks about UMTA, the BMLTA, which has been proposed, etc. Where does it fit in the MPC++? The answer really is the MPC++, what we have done in that 3-page note. First, we have said, increase the number of items in the MPC from the 18 to about 22, 24, and bring in transport as one of the schedule items, bring in commons, etc. So that way the MPC remit goes beyond and includes transport, which is not included. That's a step one. And the second step really is, we have advocated that all the money that goes to the various transport related agencies goes through the MPC. So whatever is being thought about in the BMLTA, we have said anchor it within this MPC++ structure. The next question is from...
By the way, for the benefit of everybody, UMTA is Unified Metropolitan Transport Authority, where I think they're trying to integrate all the various modes of transport under one agency, which is still to see the light of the day.
Juhi's question, of course, the place was always full of alphabet soups. So BBMP is an alphabet soup, UMTA is an alphabet soup, everybody is an alphabet soup here. Juhi J, how do you think COVID would have been handled if you had a better MPC 74th and etc. and a better ward committee empowered and the like? For that, you don't have to look further than the answer of Kerala. I mean, they did go through good phases and bad phases, but the success of Kerala in the initial phases, if you remember, was primarily because of greater empowerment at the village and at the local level was the reason for the success. So you have your answer that if you have strong ward committees, decentralized, empowered, etc., fixing the problems locally is a lot better in terms of this thing. Kesari Prasad says...
Shall we go to a live question, Ravi?
Yeah, okay, please go. Please go. Anil, I think. Anil.
Yeah. Anil K can unmute. You can ask your question. Anil K? Okay. Why don't we then go to KC
NK Das can be empowered or?
Yeah, okay. We'll just go to NK Das. Yeah, NK Das, why don't you unmute yourself? You can ask your question. NK Das?
Yeah. No, that's why I was listening everything. There is no question from my side. Thank you.
Okay, okay. Yeah. We can go to KC Prasad's question. Yeah.
Okay, Kesari is, how is BBMP structure different from BMC, KMC, DMC, CMC? The CMCs don't exist anymore. Those were the corporation municipal. See, the key thing is the scale of BBMP. As being a city of about 11 million people, its problems are very different. And this alphabet soup, I do not know what you mean by KMC. Is it Karnataka Municipal Corporation or some other thing? I don't know.
I don't know. Only I think what he's referring to is CMCs and PMCs, town municipal corporations and city municipal corporations.
And maybe district municipal corporation, I don't know. But
I don't know whether there's something
Bombay Municipal Corporation, I don't know.
Yeah.
So it's difficult till one gets that thing. So I'll just move on. So what should be each layout has an RWA. Rohan asks, what should be? See, RWAs are an important thing. It's an informal grouping which exists. The RWS per se, vis-a-vis the BBMP Act, does not have a locus standi unless some rep or the other gets into, as a rep of the RWA and in their individual capacity, into the ward committee. So the RWA here does not have a locus standi, and all of them are not necessarily registered under the Societies Act and the like. There are various kinds of things. There are apartment associations, there are resident welfare associations. So they don't have, I mean, they have their own local, some are informal, some are formal. But as far as the BBMP Act is concerned, they don't recognize RWAs as an entity. When was BBMP accounts last audited? I wish I knew. But one of the reasons that we did not get Smart City in round 1 4-5 years ago was, I remember at that stage, one of the reasons given as to why we did not make the Smart City cut was in 2016, the 2010 audited accounts were not available. That I remember. But at this point of time, which year the last audited accounts are available, honestly, I don't know at this point.
So Ravi, that's something that we have access to, the 2017-18 audited accounts, and that's the last that we have. After that, we don't have access to it. In fact, we'll be covering that in the session that we'll be having on the BBMP budget as well. As it stands, it's almost 3 years since we had the last audited accounts.
Subhashini Menon, would you like to ask your question live? I mean, if you can enable.
Yes, Subhashini, you can unmute and you can ask your question.
Yeah, good evening. Hi, Subhashini here. Just wanted to find out, like you said, the different agencies have to be on the same page. How can we work on to that? Because we've been, trying to attend the ward meeting since September, and from September till now, like we have got 7-8 people involved who have dug the road, and nobody has any clue of who's going to answer to the work that has not been done.
So Subhashini, actually, if you again go back to our BBMP restructuring report, ward committee composition and attendance and who are the people who have to attend, in the way we have defined it, all the multiple agencies, their rep has to be there at each ward committee meeting. That provision is there even in the BBMP Act. They have just mentioned 1 or 2 agencies. It needs to be more agencies. So all the agencies in the city need to have a representative in the individual ward committee. That's the way forward to fix it. Satyanarayana asks that the first and last mile connectivity can be improved. The answer is yes. I've always believed that footpaths is the way to go abroad, improving the first and last mile connectivity. The more footpaths that we have, they're talking about 1,000 kilometers of footpaths in the last budget, for example. That's really the way to go forward, because then you can walk to the bus stand, walk to the metro and other stuff. That would be the best way to work on first and last mile connectivity. There are other things like cycles and some of these shared two-wheelers and the like. Chetan Venugopal talks about responsibility of zonal commissioners and the chief commissioners. This is best asked of BBMP, but essentially from what I can read between the lines of news items that I've seen, there will be decentralized financial decision-making powers, which the chief commissioner used to hold in the past. Some of that will be decentralized at the zonal commissioner level, maybe up to 10 crores or some X crore level. And some of the files that used to go to the commissioner can now be signed by the zonal commissioners. But my past experience, we have to wait and watch. It's a new experiment. The past experience has been, they always like to cover themselves by sending the file for a counter signature of the commissioner. We have to see whether that practice stops and whether zonal commissioners are courageous enough to sign the file and close it. Often they like to just buy themselves security by sending it to the commissioner in the past. We'll have to see how this plays out. Sri Vidya says coordination is nil with the privatization. What will the scenario be? This is an issue about whether privatization will happen. What is the impact when privatization happens? There's this whole debate on whether it's better with private agencies or with public agencies. My short answer really is, even if you use private agencies, the terms and conditions under which they operate need to be clearly articulated and enforced. That's what needs to be done. Meanwhile, can we ask Krishna Narayan Pai if he'd like to ask his question?
Yeah, Krishna, you can unmute and you can ask your question.
Krishna?
Not sure what has happened there. Um,
So
Why
Vivek
don't
Shah
you-
asked, how as individuals can we raise accountability? It's by getting involved with the BNP, the Resident Welfare Association in the ward committee. Getting involved in any small way, in any which way that appeals to you is the way forward in terms of this thing. Mukund Murthy asked which municipality, there's no municipality which is a role model. Different people do different things well. Indore, for example, clearly has very good way by which they're handling garbage and waste. But one of the things which are not spoken enough about Indore, the citizens have embraced Indore as being the cleanest city as a matter of pride. So more than anything which commissioners and officers are doing in Indore, it is citizens who have embraced that cause, which is leading to Indore's success.
By the way, Ravi, Kesari Prasad's question apparently was, what's the difference between Bengaluru's municipal corporation vis-a-vis Delhi, Kolkata, Mumbai, etc.?
Okay, so among the bigger metro, it's very simple. I mean, Delhi, of course, has gone for a three municipal corporation model. The Bombay Municipal Corporation is one, but if you really look at the Mumbai region, which is similar to what Bangalore is, they actually have 7 municipal corporations. The big difference, I would say, between Bombay and Delhi and us is they have multiple municipal agencies. We have a single one. Vis-a-vis Calcutta, the difference is that Calcutta has a better implemented MPC than any other place, is the only observation about the Calcutta Municipal Corporation. Ravindra Singh says, how do we get suggestions implemented when BNP not enter the state legislature? That's for Shrikant and the governing board to let you know why only BBMP and not the state.
Yeah.
So that's
I can quickly take that question. I think at a fundamental level, we have to focus on what is under our sphere of influence. Right now, instead of worrying about the larger level issues, at the ward level, there are lots of issues which are there, which can be sorted out at the local level through corporator, ward committees and area sabhas. So that's a low-hanging fruit that we have, where we have a decentralized level of governance. We do the ground-up budgeting that Ravi also talked about and that we have done in C.V. Raman Nagar ward and a few other wards like Ramakant Nargun also said. So with that, we can bring about more transparency in ward level governance. We can bring about more accountability in ward level governance. We can have more citizen level participation in ward level governance. So for example, even if we were to win, for the moment, let's assume only 5 wards. In these 5 wards, we can make the projects transparent to people. We can involve citizens in deciding what the projects are. We can ensure that the projects that are happening in that ward are happening under the supervision of the ward committee and area sabhas, even if they are not formally mandated. So these are all things that we can do out of our own will, which is not necessarily mandated by the BBMP Act or otherwise. The larger issues, I'm not sure whether even if we are going to be in state legislature, whether we can bring about that change. Ultimately, it needs any of these parties to start thinking about it. None of these parties are interested. So even if we have a few seats in the state legislature, it's not like we are going to suddenly overnight bring about a change. But as Ravi keeps saying, we are now a political party. Politically, if we keep exerting influence over a period of time, the relevant amendments that we need in the BBMP Act will happen over a period of time.
Okay, so we are out of time, Shrikant. So what I'd like to do is 2 things. For anybody who's on the call, I mean, at least I see another 20 unanswered questions. My mobile number is 98450-24823. Anybody is welcome to give me a call, and I'm happy to answer that question to that individual. 98450-24823. Please feel free to call, because there's no way we're going to finish that in the next 2 minutes. I'll just take Bhargav Kaushik's last question, which I found very interesting.
Ravi, 1 minute. Can you just repeat your number? 98450
24823.
I'm posting it in the chat window.
Please post it. I'll end with Bhargav Kaushik's question. What is the one thing you're most happy about from your last year belief talk and today's belief talk? What is the one thing you want to happen before your next belief talk? So the only thing I can think of, because I don't even remember the things I spoke about in the last year's belief talk, so that's a little bit of a challenge right now, because I don't know, but I think I keep saying the same thing every year after year. I think what I'm happy about this year is
the one thing that you keep
I remember
for
the
sure
numbers this time are larger than last time.
True, that's good.
Digit last time, it has went up to 125, 130. So as anybody who likes a larger audience, I'm happier with the larger audience, and I hope the audience is happy with what I said here today. So as far as next year's belief talk is concerned, a year is a long time in politics and cities. Who knows the interesting things that we may end up speaking about next year? Who knows, some of the things that we spoke about as changes in ward committee may well happen. So I wouldn't look into the future, but it's great to see so much of involvement, such detailed questions and engagement. And I think a great community of citizens engaged with wanting to make the city better and is emerging. And for that, Srikant, I'm really grateful that people like you are taking the lead in making these kind of things happen, because you're really working at the citizen level, which is really very, very heartening to see. I've had a 2-decade involvement, but mine has been a more top-down involvement with the system. But it's a lot tougher and very much required to work at the grassroots level and build the engaged citizenry. So more power to your elbow. Thank you so much for calling me.
No, thank you, Ravi. I really appreciate what you said as well. We believe that involvement of people like you is very important to bring in that strategic thinking into government in terms of thinking of new ideas on how to bring about change. But equally important, as you rightly said, is putting that pressure from inside the system, from parties like us. Of course, I remember when we originally started off, there was a lot of cynicism. There was a lot of
I was one of the skeptics.
Yeah, skepticism. But I think it's fair, because the way the system has evolved, I think it's only fair that people are cynical and skeptical. But step by step, and what we keep telling people is, change doesn't happen overnight. It takes time. We need to have the staying power. We need to have the perseverance. We need to ensure that we are consistently at it day in and day out. And rightly, as you said, Ravi, what gives me great pleasure is every time we have sessions like these, the participation increases. And not just in these sessions, today in ward committee meetings, the number of people who are attending, who are putting pressure from BNP teams is, I would say, phenomenal. And all of these things will end up with only one outcome, and that is change in the positive direction. I'm absolutely confident about it. So thanks for all your support also, Ravi.
So much,
yeah. So I would like to take this opportunity to thank Ravichandra for taking time out, for coming on this forum and addressing us with all his valuable inputs and taking all those questions. I've made note of some of the questions, and Ravi has been kind enough to share his number. So please feel free to call him as well. Or if you have any questions, please post it on our BNP groups also. We'll take it up and post it to him, and we'll get back the answers shortly. And our commitment also is that we will keep doing these sessions, probably with more frequency, unlike, let's say, in the past where we've been doing it once every 7 or 8 months. We'll probably do it with an increased frequency as well, so that all of us can keep asking more and more questions of this.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you all for attending. Have a great week ahead. Thanks, Ravi, and thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.